we rolling? You rolling? You rolling?
Yeah. Is it on?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
This wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be. I'm going to cut this out.
All right. Let's start.
That's a terrible start. Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
Justin, we got this. We got this.
This.
Yeah, we can do this.
What's up, guys? I am Justin.
And I'm Jordan.
Welcome to another video game podcast.
Where different gamers talk about different games.
Absolutely. I am an RPG fantasy player, and Jordan is a competitive shooter kind of player.
This episode's right up my alley, man.
Yeah, what are we talking about today?
Today is the one, the only, dude, some of the best games, some of the best FPS games ever to come from this franchise, Battlefield. Battlefield, dude.
It's not the only battle. There's not one Battlefield.
No, I know. I mean, the franchise as a whole, like some of the best games, like some of the best first-person shooters have come from the Battlefield franchise. At least I feel like that's.
Now, this is gonna be the first time where we haven't, where one of us has never even touched it. I've never touched a Battlefield game.
Oh, you're missing out.
And I did a lot of research for this episode, and it looks like it. It looks like I've been really missing out because it looks really fun. It really does.
Okay, the most fun is when you have a squad of 4 and you're all good at the game, because what ends up happening is I feel like there's a much bigger learning curve in Battlefield than there is in something like COD.
Really?
Yeah. Especially because of like understanding how the physics of the game works. It's a lot more realistic. You deal with things like bullet drop is huge, especially in snipers. Like knowing, hey, midway through this particular map, a storm comes in, and you need to switch from like a long range gun to your short range gun because you're not going to be able to see more than 10 feet in front of you anyways.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And when also physics, I mean, destructibility is something COD has never had, at least to my knowledge, and Battlefield loves. I mean, Battlefield players love being able to actually blow up a building and have it fall.
Right.
Like that's one of the best things I feel like about Battlefield is especially like being able to know you can blow up a building, then hop out of your tank and go clear those ruins. I mean, so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, the physics are insane. Like I like how the wind can affect, like when you use a flamethrower, it'll affect which way it goes, and also like it can change the trajectory of your grenade. It can there are gas bombs that will go with the wind, and it's crazy. And real quick, disclaimer at the beginning of this: I watched a video that was like top 10 things that Battlefield players hate, and number 2 was being compared to COD. We're going to compare it to COD, just because that's a baseline for me, and that will honestly be one of the topics that we talk about.
It's not just a baseline for you; it's a baseline for everybody's played COD. Like, who hasn't played at least one COD? I can't name a single person that hasn't played at least one. Right, where tons of people don't play Battlefield. Tons of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it from what I've seen, they're 2 completely different games. They're both first-person shooters, and they have similar game modes, but they're 2 completely different beasts. So we're not gonna shit on you if you like one over the other or anything like that. Your preference is your game, and they both look phenomenal. And so, speaking of looking phenomenal, this is my personal opinion. Black Ops Cold War, the most recent Call of Duty, came out in November of 2020. Battlefield 1 released in October of 2016, and in my opinion, it looks so much better.
1,000 times better. 1,000 times better. I can't remember what is it. I think they use, is it the Unreal Engine? I think that's what it is. I think that's what they use.
A lot of games use
But
it.
yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I remember like watching gameplay for Battlefield 1. So Battlefield 1 I think is the best first person shooter of all time. So I will be talking
Whoa.
a lot about Battlefield 1 and why I think it's number 1. Just to be clear, when I say Battlefield 1, I'm not talking about the first Battlefield. I'm talking about what you said, the game that came out in 2016. They called it Battlefield 1 because it's about World War 1. Like
Mhm.
that's where all the maps take place. Also the oh man, I don't even know. I feel so scattered because there's so many things I want to talk about. What were we let's get back on track. I do, Justin, don't let me forget though. I do want to talk about like the history and how they work that into current Battlefield games, but we'll get
Yeah.
there. Put me back on track. What were we talking about?
So at first we were talking about the physics. I think the first thing we should do is talk about what sets Battlefield apart from
Okay.
other first-person shooters. One of
Okay.
them, I think, is definitely the destructibility. For
Absolutely.
the size of map and the amount of players they have, the fact that there is such a large amount of destructibility, like most buildings can be blown to smithereens.
Yes.
And not even in just the buildings, but even like there's vehicle combat in this as well, which is huge. Tanks, planes, and weird mixtures of the two, and just a
Boats,
ton
like
of them.
yeah, there's
Boats, yeah, and those have destructibility now. Not just like, oh, you have a health bar on this, and once it's at zero, it explodes. It's no, like if you're flying a plane, someone could shoot a wing out, and now that wing isn't working
yeah,
properly.
and so when that happens, the whole plane like tilts to the direction that it's not working, and you have to like hold a repair button where you can't move. Like if you're in a plane, you'll keep flying straight and you won't like drop down,
Mm,
but you can't turn. And if you're in a tank or another vehicle, I think you can't move like while you're repairing the vehicle. And like for tanks, for example, like there's times when you will have one track that's been blown off of the tank, and so you're stuck, right? You can repair it from the inside, which will take forever. And if you've lost a track, then you're an open fucking target, right? But
mhm,
you can hop out of the tank and repair it much quicker from the outside than you
mhm.
can from the inside. So if you feel confident that like, hey, there's only like two guys here, let me hop out real quick, clean these two kills, fix my tank, and keep it rolling. I mean, there you I feel like the opportunity to have insane kill streaks because of little things like that, where you
Mhm.
can kind of pick and choose your engagements, that makes it very different from COD. Very
Yeah,
different.
I've what I've also seen. So like a lot of the clips that you see out there, if you just look up, Battlefield gameplay, are like top 50 craziest plays and stuff. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
nothing compared to what I've ever seen in the similar thing of Call of Duty. Call of Duty is just like a really skilled player getting a lot of high kill streaks.
Yeah.
Where like a lot of crazy ones from Battlefield can even just boil down to luck.
Hmm.
And it is
And
pure
timing.
chaos. They try to go for like the design, and everything is very realistic, and realistic weapons and realistic physics. But at the same time, it's one of the most chaotic and video gamey games I've ever seen in my life. And
Hmm.
by that I mean, like, what I mean by video gaming is like their bodies flying like hundreds of miles, and
Yeah.
the things that you could do are never anything that can happen in real life. And so it's a weird mixture of this realistic aesthetic and realistic physics, along with like like planes glitching into each other. And
Yeah.
I've seen people pull off amazing things, like a plane flying upside down and it goes over another plane. The guy hops out of the plane upside down and lands on the plane below it,
Yes. Yep.
and it's insane. Like I put down some quick notes of specific things I saw in the gameplay videos, and one of my favorites was this guy. This was from Battlefield 4, and
Okay.
he put a C4 on his ATV. He
Yep.
started
Super. I
riding
was
it.
gonna talk about this. Yes.
He was riding on what looked like a giant satellite dish or something,
Yep.
and he ramped off of it. But right before it ramped off, he jumped off, and there was a helicopter flying by, and he exploded it in midair, and it blew up the helicopter. And I'm like, that is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen another game that could do a whole lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's such a confusing mess when you're an outsider looking in of like this everything's so realistic, but yet everything is so chaotic.
Yeah, one of the coolest clips that I've ever seen from Battlefield was, I think it was also in Battlefield 4, where somebody like was in a fighter jet. They flew their jet straight up into the air until the engine stalled. The engine stalled. They hopped out with a sniper, got a kill while falling, and then because the plane, like the plane didn't fall as fast because it had to like tilt back down, and so he then aimed back at his plane and got back into the jet and kept going. Like
Whoa.
shit like that is wild. It's wild in Battlefield. Some of the things you can do are incredible. They're incredible.
That I don't. It's ridiculous. Also, I was just watching one of those clips, and this is my note. It's from Battlefield 4. I just put sharks in all caps because I was so confused because I just saw someone riding in a boat and a giant shark just came out. I'm like, what is happening? This is a
Yeah.
shooter.
Yep. Yep.
Sharks.
So it's another thing that like Battlefield is very much like the environment affects how you play the game, right? Um there's I know the map you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah. And actually in that map there's an Easter egg where you can do some combination of actions and a giant megalodon like jumps up out of the water like and then comes back down. Like and it's like massive.
Yeah, it looks huge.
Yeah. There's some of the stuff that you can find in there is insane. It's insane.
So break down to me. It sounds like the getting more into like on track of the structure of the game. It looks like there's a lot more focus on the classes. There are actually different roles that you have, like a medic
Yes.
and stuff like that. And so that was the only one that really stood out to me. What are the different classes? And we're mainly going to be talking about the newer ones like Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 that just came out.
Hmm.
And we will be comparing the two later. But what are the classes like?
Yeah, so I think there's always four. You have a recon class, which is like your sniper. You'll have a support class, which is usually an LMG, and like your ability is you drop ammo for everyone. Oh, and recon, your ability is usually like what they call a radio beacon. So you put down this beacon, and then your squad can always spawn on that beacon as long as that beacon survives. But yeah. So we have recon, we have uh, support. There's an assault, which is always like a sub, and then usually your abilities are like lots of explosives. So it's really good for taking down tanks, or like armored vehicles, things like that. You'll usually have rocket launchers or C4s or something along those lines. And then the last one, yeah, you have medic. So your job is to heal and revive people. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Like having a good squad means the world in Battlefield. Having one person who you know is dedicated to fill that role for your squad every time and does it well, like you will change the course of a 64 player game, which is four people, right?
Wow.
Like that's not something that you can do in COD. Like we've all been there when we go 30-5 on Nuketown, but we still fucking lost.
Right.
You know, like your performance directly impacts how the game goes.
Yeah.
I really now I granted I played a ton of Battlefield 1. My favorite role was always the snipers, and it's just because of how crispy, how clean, how fucking amazing some of those shots. Justin, what are you doing right now?
So you we're on video for the first time with each other, so we can get better reactions from each other. And I'm just eating my beard.
My God. Okay, but yeah, some of the shots that you get, like when you get a couple of good quick scopes in COD, it feels good. I mean, it feels cool. But when you are literally hitting like 1,500-meter snipes in Battlefield, I don't know if that's actually accurate. I don't remember, but you get the point. Snipes where like they are literally 2 pixels on your screen, and you have
Yeah.
to aim up and to the right to like calculate for bullet drop and wind speed. Like some of the things that you have to try to keep in mind is fucking incredible. Like
Yeah, I saw a clip. Like bullet penetration is a huge thing too. Like I saw a clip in Battlefield 1 where a guy just shot one sniper bullet and 5 dudes were lined up and he got all 5 of them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's I'm sure that's like a 1 in a million type of shot, but that's insane.
Something that's super common that Battlefield players always do or try to do. I would sit here for hours and try to do it, but you can snipe people out of planes. So like that's something you could never do in COD, and I wish that was a thing. But I mean, you can sit there with your fucking sniper and try to like try to lead off the plane and hit the pilot and get the kill. Like that's it's incredibly hard to do, but I mean, when you hit that, like I remember I've hit one in the hundreds of hours that I've played Battlefield, and I lost my mind. I lost my mind. Like I destroyed half my room in excitement. It was amazing. But yeah, I mean, some of the things that you can do in Battlefield are just they're absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
So in the squad, there's a squad leader. What is the role of the squad leader, and what is it like when you get a crappy one?
Okay. So this is where I think Battlefield 5 had a major issue. This is where I think they had a major issue. For the most part, in previous Battlefields, like all the squad leader really did was like mark an objective for your team to go for. So especially in a game like Conquest, in a game mode like Conquest, that's the thing we'll have to talk about too, is there's tons of different game modes. But Conquest is usually the bigger one. It's where you have access to the full map, and it's essentially domination from Call of Duty, but there's like 7 different locations, 7 to 10, right? And you're getting kills gets you score as well, and the score is usually set to like 1,000 or something like that. Man, I'm losing my train of thought tonight. So when you're doing something like that, man, what was I even talking about? Man, I don't even know.
Squad leaders.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So marking is super important because
You
you want
started.
your I
You
know.
started a sentence of like when you do that thing that I can't know if I'm doing what when you like I do that all the time where I like start a sentence or I just end a
Like,
sentence by
what was I even
repeating what I
talking about?
just said and
I
being
know.
like I don't remember what we're talking about.
Okay, squad leaders. Yeah. So marking an objective is super important because you want your squad to like follow you and go to the same location. Just so you can actually get objectives, so that you can win the game. In Battlefield 5, they gave the squad leader like certain abilities that only the squad leader could do. I fucking hated it because when you got a bad squad leader, then it really did ruin your experience.
Like what? What roles did they get?
Like, I think a super common one was that you could call in like a really big rocket launch, but only the squad leader could do it. And to me, I didn't really like that. I Because if you didn't have a good squad leader who knew how to do that and knew how to call in score streaks, myself, it just I don't know, it just took away a lot, and I felt like people were when you gave the squad leader certain abilities, people were not as inclined to actually work with their squad. right? To actually like, and that's one of the best things about the game is that when you got into a squad, your voice chat was only with your squad, not with your whole team,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you would communicate with these 4 or 5 guys, however big your squad is, and that was what you were doing. And man, I don't know. I didn't really enjoy how Battlefield 5 did squad leaders. It just didn't work
Um,
for me.
so are squad leaders appointed by the squad or is it randomly chosen?
Um, I believe if you are playing by yourself, it's randomly chosen. But if you no, it's randomly chosen every time. It's randomly chosen every time. The game,
If
yeah,
I got selected as a squad leader, could I give up that right before the game
yes,
started?
yes, you could during the game. You can promote somebody else to squad leader.
Hmm.
Squad leader was also nice too because you could kick people out of the squad that weren't playing like the objective, right? So if you had a squad where you were trying to convince the whole squad to push objective A, right? But there's one jerk off who's sitting in the back with a sniper, myself, who just didn't want to push and instead was just going for clip kills. You could kick him, and it wouldn't really affect that player's game too much. It would either put them into a different squad or it'd put them in a squad by themselves,
Hmm.
right?
Gotcha.
And yeah, it sucks because in Battlefield you can always spawn on your squad as long as they're not in combat,
Hmm.
or you can spawn on objectives. But like the from that person's like perspective, the game isn't really changed all that much just because they got kicked. And then they opens that spot up for that other squad to get someone who will help them push the objective so that you actually get a team that's working together to do the objective. And that's I think Battlefield really focuses on objectives. Like it
Hmm.
really focuses on objectives. Like it is a mass scale objective based game or like game. It always has been.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, so with the different classes, you mentioned that they're like this class gets an LMG and this class gets
Mhm.
a sniper. So it's not like Call of Duty where you can customize a class to have whatever gun you want and whatever
Mm-mm.
attachments you want.
Nope.
It can you choose between different LMGs or different sniper rifles, or is it mainly based attachments, or how do you get attachments?
No, so I think it depends on the game that you're playing mostly. For example, Battlefield 4 was very attachment heavy, right? Battlefield 1 was very gun heavy, where there were like abilities that you could unlock. But you know what I mean? Like there were abilities that you could unlock in Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. So it was more like perks for the gun. You could call them attachments if you want to, but it was more like, you know, um, increase suppression ability by 30%, or
Hmm.
like um, reduce weapon sway by this much, which I mean, it sounds like an attachment and it just functions more like a perk. So that way you could pick your gun and then you could equip the perks for that gun that you want to use. Does that make sense? But I mean, yeah, Battlefield 4 still did have all. It was very attachment heavy.
Gotcha. Okay, and are attachments just unlocked with level, or is there even a leveling system?
Depends on the game that you're playing. So, I don't really remember how Battlefield 4 did it. I think in Battlefield 4, once you unlocked the gun, I think you had all the attachments and you could just
Okay.
build the gun out however you want.
Hmm.
Battlefield 1 used a currency system,
Ew.
but it wasn't like pay to win. You could never buy currency,
Mm.
which was I thought was nice. You could
Wait,
always
isn't it EA?
yeah, it is EA.
How does that work? I don't understand. That doesn't
I know.
EA with no
Compute
microtransactions does not make
does
any sense
not
to me.
compute. Oh, there were microtransactions, but
Oh.
it was weapon skins. But Battlefield really never focused on weapon skins all that much. You know what I mean? So it was just yeah, you could, but it wasn't very important. And you could buy skins for vehicles, you could buy different like clothing outfits for yourself, but it was usually all cosmetics. I think if
Mhm.
Battlefield actually did like a pay to win skill thing, their entire community would scream at them furiously because the type of person that plays Battlefield is very different, I feel like, than the type of person that plays COD. I feel like COD kind of relates more to your young teens, like your 10 to 15 year olds is
Uh,
kind of who it's targeted at. I've always felt like Battlefield was targeted for like your 16 to 25 year olds.
is it like this is a weird and I'm not this isn't me bashing Call of Duty. I like Call of
Hmm.
Duty a lot.
So do I.
Is Battlefield Call of Duty with like no training wheels? Or is it just a more complicated system? Is it or if you're like really good at COD, could you pretty easily transition to Battlefield?
Easily is not the word that I would use, but it's possible. If you're really used to COD, then I would recommend starting with either support or assault class because sniping is nothing like what you see in COD. Even the guns that what I do like about Battlefield is there were guns that were clearly like meant as quick scoping guns. And
Hmm.
it felt realistic because these guns would never have a they would always be iron sights. They would always be like one bullet at a time, but it was still like a really fast motion, and the gun itself wasn't huge or heavy or anything like that. Like it felt real. You don't get that when you play Call of Duty at all. Like you
Right.
just, yeah, I mean, the heaviest gun in the game, you put the right attachments on it and you can quickscope. That's not the case in Battlefield. That's not how that works. But that being said, I think yes, you could with some practice. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not going to
Of
be a walk
course.
in the park. I would probably recommend starting with a support class. I think support's probably the easiest to pick up, just because you never run out of ammo. You're using an LMG, which LMGs in that game or in Battlefield have always been, I feel like, pretty good. Although in Battlefield 4 there were a lot of really good sub choices because there was a lot of maps that subs did really well on.
Hmm.
Yeah, Battlefield 1 not so much. Battlefield 1 was a lot more about your long range engagements.
Okay. Interesting. Um, that's so different. It's so
Mhm.
different from COD. One question or one subject that I have here is cheating.
Hmm.
It is rampant with cheaters, I see.
Yes.
There's an
Yes it is.
estimation that I got, and I don't know the accuracy of this, but one in every 30 Battlefield players cheats is a
Yeah.
statistic that I got. And that is insane.
Mhm. That feels a little high, but not high for the old games. Like if you go try to play Battlefield 1 now, there's usually one hacker in every lobby.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's hard now like the games that they don't support anymore, they don't care about like banning people really. And
The,
I
why
don't
do you
know.
think why do you think that is? That Battlefield has so many more hackers?
I think it's the type of the game that draws it in. Um it's very reminiscent of Warzone too. Something about these really long engagements makes hacking, I feel like it makes it feel better. You know what I mean? Because like if you're playing Call of Duty multiplayer and you're hacking, yeah, you might pop off, but there's always going to be someone who runs up behind you, behind you and just guts your neck or whatever.
Hmm.
In Warzone or in Battlefield, you can set yourself up so that you can see people from like 100 meters away trying to run up on you. Like you could just find a hill and just sit on top of that hill and then cheat and just lock on to people and see the whole map. Like you could that's the thing is I feel like in Battlefield there's always at least one spot on the map where you can see 80% or more of the map
Hmm.
like from this one vantage point. And it's usually towards the center of the map and that it like drives engagements towards the middle. For example, in Battlefield 4, there was a city map where the tallest building was the middle like conquest objective. And so people would rush that, try to get on top, and then they could spend the whole game sniping and almost never die. But the trade-off to that is because Battlefield has destructibility, you shoot at that one building enough, it will fall. And everybody inside dies.
That's
Everybody
awesome.
inside dies. So that you can see crazy clips of people getting 20, 30 kills because they just got that last lucky shot on a building and was able to just blow it up and kill everybody inside. It was great.
Yeah, it seems like even camping isn't safe in this game because of the destructibility.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of it. It forces, like, you can camp and sit in the back, but also in Battlefield, it doesn't feel the same. Like, I feel like camping is a lot more appropriate in Battlefield, especially if you're constantly looking at the whole map. And you see you pull up the mini map so it takes up your whole screen and you see, oh, there's a squad running towards my objective right now from this objective. I'm just going to hang tight, wait for them to come to me and see if I can still hold this objective so that we'll win and get a couple kills out of it. That is the logical, appropriate thing to do in Battlefield, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of behavior in Call of Duty, it's not the same.
It's frowned upon.
It's not just is it frowned upon. I feel like the skill level goes down. You will not do well in COD camping the whole game. You might get a couple of crazy clips, but you're not going to do well overall. You're much better off moving around.
Yeah, you may be safer in COD, but you're honestly just not going to see very many people if you just camp in one spot. The
Exactly,
maps,
you're not.
that's the way the maps are designed, is if you're camping in one section, you maybe get a couple people. But the thing is, the respawn rate is so fast and the maps are so small. If someone's camping in a corner in COD and I run into the room and I don't see them and they kill me, I immediately know where they are and I'm going to go right back where they were and I'm going to throw a grenade right in their spot. Exactly. And so there's no point. If you camp, you can get 2 kills and someone's going to know where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. In Battlefield, because it's so big, by the time you might be able to get back to that objective, I mean, half the game might have gone by.
Wow.
Just depending on how the game went. And that's another thing, too, that I really want us to talk about is the different game modes that there are, because Conquest is the main one. Conquest is I feel like that's Battlefield's bread and butter. However, it's not my favorite.
Really?
I do love it. I do really like Conquest, but it's not my favorite.
Tell me the differences. So Call of Duty Cold War has a mode that is a larger version of, for example, the one that we played, not exactly Fire Team. There was another one that was Domination, but it uses a larger section of the map, and there are multiple objectives.
That's called Fire Team Conquest, I think, and then there's Fire Team Dirty Bomb.
Okay, gotcha. Because I remember when we first played Fire Team Conquest in COD, we were playing on the boat map, which I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, and it went from one boat to say 5 boats, and you could zip line between them, and I was lost the whole time, and it sucked. And I hated it. And so what are the differences between that and Battlefields?
Absolutely. So I feel like Battlefield spends a lot more time, and I think this is where COD could really learn something. Battlefield does not release a game every year. Because of that, their games are of higher quality. It's not fucking rocket science. You take longer to work on something, and it's better. I don't know why Activision can't figure this one the fuck out.
You give such such a shrug, and you're just like,
yeah. It's because they don't do it every year, because it's usually every 2 or 3 years that they release one. The games are of higher quality because they can spend more time working on them. It's not hard. Now, because of that, they can really take the time with map design. And one of the things I also really like is that, at least I know they did this for Battlefield 1. I'm assuming that they did it for Battlefield 5. I don't know about 4, because I think 4 is an entirely fictitious events. but Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 are about World War 1 and World War 2, respectively. So a lot of the Battlefield 1 maps are modeled after real battlefields. This is where like the events actually took place. This is like it's not going to be copy and paste, but it's going to be pretty goddamn close to how the battle actually took place in real life.
It's a faithful recreation.
Yes, it's a faithful recreation of the events of World War One and World War Two.
There's a mission that I saw in Battlefield 1 about World War One in the story, which I've heard the story missions are okay, they're fine, but it's not the focus. And so, but I've heard they're pretty good. And there was one because there's like for example, if you play like Call of Duty, you're playing a main character, and you may do one or two missions where you play as someone else, but you're playing a main character. And if you die as that main character, you restart your checkpoint because that's not how the story goes. Whereas in Battlefield 1, there was an entire mission where you started as a random soldier, and when you died, it would fade to black and white, and it would say that character's name, their year of birth, and their year of death.
Yep.
And then you would take over a different character and another character and another character, and it was purely to show you that how quickly lives could end during war, and it was extremely like real.
Goosebumps right now.
Yeah, it was real, and it was, and you would go from an infantry soldier, and you would die. It would say their name and their year of death, and then you would take over a guy that's in a tank, and so on and so forth, and it was purely to show like, oh, this character's not respawning. This was a person.
Yeah.
And they died.
Yes.
And that's how war works.
Yeah, like that is how war works. Yes. I'm getting goosebumps just by you talking about that. And
war never changes.
Now, I will say, never touched Battlefield 5's campaign, didn't give a fuck. Because Battlefield 5 was fucking dog shit. It was so bad.
Why?
But no, let me I'll get to that, I promise.
Okay.
But Battlefield, actually, I think Battlefield 5 did the same thing as Battlefield 1, where the missions, or like your campaign was story arcs of different characters through World War 1 and World War 2. And so you would do, for example, in Battlefield 1, I believe, so you had that first mission where you start as like an infantry person, and that's actually how the game tells how good you are. It's how many people did you let die during that like opening scene.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how it sets the game difficulty. So if you just don't die for that whole first mission, then the game will be set to a really hard difficulty. For like the whole rest of the game. But essentially, like the first real mission that you play in that is you're a tank driver for like for the British in World War One. And some of the things that you go through, I mean, spoiler alert, but I believe that story arc ends with your whole squad, like your whole tank command dying, including yourself. And like it's heartbreaking. And there's another one where you're like an American pilot who like sneaks into the British like Royal Air Force to fly, and you're like lying your way into it so that you can fly planes. And then they find out, and I think they try to arrest you, and you escape and shit like that. But yeah, and these are all based off of like true stories, like true events that actually happened during World War One and Two. I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that, because like one of the things that gets me about story games is if I have a day to play video games, I want to feel like I have a chance of actually completing the game that day. And that's when most video games nowadays, that's not something that can be done.
Yeah, now I see why you don't play a lot of RPGs.
Yeah, exactly. But in the Battlefield story, that's something you could do. If you had 4 hours, you could carve out a whole character arc and feel like you actually completed a part of the game. And so, I mean, I really liked Battlefield 1's at least campaign. I'm assuming Battlefield 5's campaign was fine. I don't know. Battlefield 4's was forgettable, but I really enjoyed Battlefield 1 campaign.
I mean, yeah, that's really interesting coming from you as a non-story based player.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, if you haven't even seen just like the trailer for the story, go look it up. It looks beautiful, and like it's still like I said, it looks better than the most recent Call of Duty, which I
Hmm.
don't. It's just like you said, you work on something longer, it'll turn out better. It's weird how that works.
I know, right?
That's why this
Who would have
podcast is
thunk?
shitty. It's because I don't we don't spend time doing it.
That's because we have like 3 fucking episodes. Like,
Yeah. No, it's just because it's we just get off work. We're just like, let's talk about a video game for an hour.
I know, right? I know, right? Um, I'm looking over like our list here, and I want to. Is there anything that is on here? I mean, Justin, what about you? Is there anything that you really want to talk about or talk to me
Well,
about?
you really wanted to talk about Easter eggs.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that was the Megalodon was an example of them. I feel like we kind of already touched on that. I think
Does
there was
it,
an. Go ahead.
are there the kind of Easter eggs that are like way complicated to get? Like that, like there are some famous Easter eggs from different shooters that are like you have to go here in this specific map and it has to be sunny weather and you have to
Yes.
use the butt of your gun to smack a pole here, here, and here, and then it'll give you like a random code in Morse code that you have to type into this weird key panel and then you get like this all white skin, like stuff that like takes forever and you have to have a dedicated team for little to no reward.
Yeah, so it is kind of like that. But usually the reward was some like really cool in-game effect. Like you might be able to make Santa Claus fly through the map, with his reindeer and shit like that. Or
That's
you might
cool.
be able to get like a megalodon to jump up out of the water. Or, there's I will say one of the things that's cool is like years later people are still finding Easter eggs in Battlefield.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
like years later. Like they don't spoil it at all. They let people try to figure it out. I'm sure that there's some that people still haven't found.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Easter eggs they are really cool. They're a nice it's like a nice little touch, a nice little bow on top there.
Yeah.
Oh, we got distracted. We didn't talk about game modes, or at least the game like we talked about Conquest, but I want to talk about some of the other ones.
Oh yeah, go for it.
One of my favorite, I think they called it Rush, right? This was my personal favorite of the Battlefield, like the actual Battlefield game modes. It was a tug of war type game mode where each of you guys, like each of your team, usually it's on like longer maps, like
Hmm.
maps that are just, I don't know what the right word is, oblong, you know?
Hmm.
You would each start at your spawns and meet in the middle, and you would like capture these objectives along the way, and then you'd be fighting for the same objective always, right? Because once you captured that objective, your team could spawn there, and so they would just run towards the next objective. And so your objective was to push all the way through the map and then blow up 2 bombs that they had in their spawns.
Interesting. That's
Yeah,
kind of
that
cool.
you know what the best part of that game mode is?
Huh.
There's no lobby timer. Think about that.
What?
The longest game of Rush that I played was over 2.5 hours
Oh my God.
for one game. One game.
Jeez.
Yeah, yeah, which would make it absolutely insane.
See, that's when I play first person shooters. It's like, I have 15 minutes to kill. Let me turn off my brain and shoot a gun. And whoa, that's so much.
Yep, because the game ended by blowing up the bombs. That's how the
Right.
game ended. If
Wow.
nobody could do it, then the game didn't end.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I loved it.
That's that sounds crazy and that sounds awesome at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, I guess it's kind of an Easter egg. This is one thing I really wanted to talk about when I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Is and I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, a fascinating gun in Battlefield 1 called the Colibri. which is a
Pulling up.
2 millimeter pistol. To put that in perspective, a 2 millimeter pistol would fit in the palm of your hand.
Can you
And the
spell it
way
for
you,
me?
Kolibri. It
Got it.
is it is a gun that you can that in the game you apparently it's like dog shit gun, which makes sense. It's a two
Yeah, it's
millimeter,
terrible.
and you wield it with literally just your thumb and your pointer finger, and that's all. Like if you don't know, like I just spelled it out for him. Google it if you've never even heard of it. It's a real gun. It is the smallest gun I think manufactured by a main gun
Hmm.
company. That's so small. And I saw people using it, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever. But no, it's a real gun. There are pictures of
Hmm.
it in like compared to a penny, and it looks like if you just put it like you can make like you could take like 7 pennies, make it in the shape of a gun, and that's the exact size that you have for that gun.
Yeah. Yeah. That so especially in World War One, like this is factual. Like tanks didn't exist. There hadn't really been like this was the first time I feel like a major war involved mostly guns, right?
Hmm.
Like in World War One, or explosives or rockets. And so some of the things that were actually attempted in real life during World War One, they put into Battlefield.
Yeah, like a
For
pea shooter.
Yeah, like the pea shooter, like the like armored vehicles. It had never been done before World War One. And so you really saw some really cool blends of like this is a truck that has a turret on the back but armored paneling along the sides, or like this it's like you really saw the creative process that happened in real life, and then they put that in a battlefield because it allows for tons and tons of different types of guns that you can use. I think in Battlefield 5 there's a gun that's called the photography gun, and it was like something along the lines of the first attempt at like being able to record during the battle,
Hmm.
and that was in World War II. And I think it was also like further down led to night vision. But it was a real gun. It was essentially a gun that used a photography lens as its scope.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so you saw like you really get to see a lot of really crazy different guns, and it's not just like copy and paste kind of like God.
Right. So I think we can go on to it's kind of two topics in one.
Hmm.
So on our
Very
first
first
episode
episode.
ever,
Very first.
which was our episode about Call of Duty, go check it out. It's there. There's an amazing comment by a commenter named Hayden. Thank you, Hayden, for your comment. He says my suggestion on an upcoming talking point could be comparing strategic shooters like Rainbow Six Siege and Counter Strike to arcade shooters like Call of Duty. Now, disclaimer: we will talk about Rainbow Six Siege and Counter Strike and stuff like that in later episodes. So we're not
Hmm.
going to be focusing on specifically those. But what I want to talk about is the fact that he's talking about real tactical shooters versus arcade shooters. Where would you put Battlefield? It looks like it's in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in preparation, I think you asked me this a couple of days ago, and I had no response. I still don't know if I have a real good response. I think I would say it's in the middle,
Hmm.
just because of the realistic effects, like having to deal with weather or getting your tank stuck in a mud or sandstorm or typhoons. All different real effects that happen in real life, and you have to deal with in Battlefield, and it changes the way you play the game. Or like the physics of blowing stuff up. Like all that stuff is super realistic, and I think leads to an element of being tactical because, well, that coupled with the squad function.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. The squad function seems like it would be a lot more tactical, of a
Yes.
lot more teamwork, and you have to maybe develop a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But then you also have things like people attaching C4 to ATVs and then just driving it off cliffs and blowing up all the people down below,
Hmm.
or jumping out
Right.
of planes and landing crazy snipes. So I think it does land right in the middle. I really do think, especially Battlefield 1, is like the perfect blend of realistic shooters and like an element of being tactical with something that feels arcadey and fun. And like that's the thing, like Rainbow Six, I feel like I enjoyed it for a little while. I don't like the person that I become when I play Rainbow Six Siege. He is bitter,
It's not for everyone.
angry, he hates everybody, and then he has to sit and watch other people play, which just pisses him off more. I hate that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do an episode on Siege, but it, it'll be a flip of script when we do, because Rainbow Six Siege is my wheelhouse, weirdly enough, even though I'm the RPG guy, Siege was my thing for a few years, and yeah, I did competitions and stuff. So that'll be a really interesting episode to talk about.
You could pull me back into it if you tried. I'm just saying.
Dude, I played on Xbox with an Xbox clan,
Yeah.
and I'm too scared to try it on PC.
It's
The PC community is a menace on Siege.
It's hard,
And
but if you want, I have it. If you wanted to play it, I'd be down. Just so you know.
I think I have it too. So
Nice.
anyways, this isn't about Siege. But I think Battlefield seems like it's right in the middle. And now that does lead to the final topic I want to talk about,
Okay.
which is COD versus Battlefield. What does one game do better than the other? And we were not going to use this opportunity to just shit on COD. We praised a lot of Battlefield.
I love
because
COD.
I think that there are things that probably COD does a lot better than Battlefield. Now that again, like I said, I have not played Battlefield, so most of these opinions will be on Jordan. No pressure.
I got it. No
So
problem.
if you
What
want to
me shit opinions?
if you want to shit on anyone in the comments, I'm just a bystander.
Oh man. Apparently you never took the bullying program. Bystanders are just as bad as the bully. Come on.
Right.
Be on my side.
Well, I'm enabling it, so it's whatever.
Okay, so overall, let's just actually no, I'm going to answer that at the end. But a couple of main differences, right? So you have the arcade style respawn. It's a small map. It's very fast paced. You don't even really necessarily have a lot of time to think, and that's why when you pull off like 1,000 IQ play, it is really fun in COD because you just don't have that ability to think. Like there's no time to think. It's just push forward, right? In Battlefield, you really have to think about like, okay, how am I going to approach this objective? Is it going to be with the rest of my team, or do I want to try to maybe take a vehicle, come around the backside of the objective and try to like pinch, you know? But also, if you go off by yourself in Battlefield, that kind of creates its own problem because now you're not with your squad. Now when you die, you can't respawn in that location, especially if you're pushing an objective, because again, you can only spawn on an objective that you've captured and is not currently contested. No, actually you can spawn on objectives that are contested in Battlefield, but or your squad, or one of those little recon like thingamajigs, those recon stations that let you respawn there. Mm-hmm. So if you take that opportunity and go around, like you have to really think about what you're doing, and you can't let yourself become an easy target. Because if you do that, you're dead, and then all the time that you spent trying to get to this location is wasted. Which I don't know if I can say that it's better or worse. I think it's just different. I think they're just different, you know? And I do kind of enjoy that COD has been trying to rope in the Battlefield community lately with things like, I don't remember what they called it in Modern Warfare, but Modern Warfare essentially had the fire team as well. Like a 64 player lobby. And I do enjoy that. They're trying to promote squad play. They still don't do it as well as Battlefield does. Oh God, gun to my head. I think if you forced me to pick, I would pick COD. But that being said, Battlefield 1 I think is still the best first person shooter of all time.
Gotcha.
So it's really, you're asking a lot of me to like try to go through and like explain that, but I think Battlefield 1 is the best first-person shooter of all time, but if you made me pick a franchise, I think I would pick COD.
Is it because of the consistency of you already like if another COD came out, you already know how it works. You already
Mhm.
know what loadouts you're going to pick. You already know what the perks are going to be. They're going to be very similar. Not much is going to be different, but there's going to be different maps, different guns, that kind of stuff. But with Battlefield, it seems like every time a Battlefield comes out, it could be pretty different.
Yes. I think that plays a major part in it. Um, I think also COD has like Activision in general has just become this content monster where it seems like every month we're getting new content, which is something that EA and Battlefield have yet to figure out, where EA still kind of runs on like a DLC method. I think I don't think they charge for their DLCs. I think they just charge for skins like in microtransactions. But it's still like a DLC thing. Like here's 4 new maps that we'll give you once every 3 months. And I don't think that that's better. I think having something along the lines of a battle pass and releasing one map like every month, I actually think that's better. I think that keeps your community more engaged in the game because there's always new content.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. There's a reason to keep playing
Mhm.
because when a player is done with all the maps, then or done with their skins, then he's gonna go on to a different game. Because
Yeah.
games like Call of Duty, which I think is an amazing game if you want to burn a little bit of time. Like there are multiple times where Jordan will text me saying like, "Hey," or like call me and say, "Hey, I got like 20 minutes. You want to play a game of COD?" And I don't. I think if we were both mainly Battlefield players,
That's not an
we
option.
that's not an option. We can't just be like, "Hey, I got 20 minutes. You want to play some Battlefield?" It would be like, I got an hour. Do you want to play some
Yeah.
Battlefield?
I got an hour. Do
And
you want to play one game of Battlefield?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, or half a game of tug of war.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think it's a good game for that, and I do think Battlefield seems like it would be a lot more of an investment, but I also feel like you would feel more rewarding to do well in.
I agree 100%. It is an investment. It's investment in time and energy and effort. But when you start doing well and you start getting above the herd, it does feel much more rewarding than
Mhm.
how it feels in COD.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let us know what you guys think in in the comments and on Twitter as well. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you really can't, there's no comments section. We're on Twitter. It's the slow burn right now with that Twitter. Also, every since we're not revealing our next game, every Wednesday I will post a teaser of what our next game is going to be about. It'll always be just like a little portion of the thumbnail. That's at Vid Game Podcast, or sorry, at a Vid Game Podcast. Um, then, like I said, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you want to listen, please listen. Let us know what other subjects you want to talk about, and let us know what games we should talk about. Jordan, you have anything to add?
Um, there's not a comment section, but they can leave us a little rate and review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify.
Yes,
So,
yes.
go ahead, leave a little review. Maybe we'll read it, and maybe we'll tell you to fuck off. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, just for even if you're nice to us, we'll just be like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
We don't need your validation, even though we asked for it.
Okay, wait, last second before we sign off.
Hmm.
Do you think you would buy Battlefield 1? Do you think I could talk you into that? Is that something that could happen?
On a sale,
Yeah, if it's for
on a
sale.
sale, because I have a lot of games, and I I've started to have less and less time
I
on my
know.
hands, and so Call of Duty has been kind of nice because I can just burn some time, 15, 30 minutes at a time. Um, but and I'm still learning the ropes
With
with
COD.
COD,
Yeah,
and so I feel like if I just jump ship and went to Battlefield right now, I would want to only focus on one or the other,
that's fair.
and and I now that I'm just getting the hang of COD, I feel like I would just be lost. I don't want to be lost again
You'd
immediately.
be lost in the sauce.
Lost in that sauce.
Okay, no, that's very fair. I will accept that answer. That's a good answer. Being an adult means that you have money for all of the video games that you want to play, but no time to play them.
Yeah, it also, well, or it could mean you have no money because you're paying for your rent and your electricity and your dog.
That too. That too. All right.
I want to be a kid again.
I know, right?
I envy you kids out there that can play video games all day.
Dude, you don't know how good you have it, man. You have it so good.
Yeah,
It's so good.
Look forward to growing up. If we get popular enough and we end up like doing video podcasts where you can actually see us, you're gonna look at us and be like, "Oh God, I'm gonna turn into those." With their sad eyes.
I know. They're sad.
On that note,
God, they're sad, sunken eyes.
there's sad eyes. On that note, though,
I think we can wrap it up right there. It's a pretty good note.
leave it on a positive note.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Like, comment, share, subscribe, share it, especially. It's huge for a small, growing podcast like us. And if you like what we're doing, let us know.
Yeah, or even if you don't, let us know. I'd love to have that little engagement in the comments.
I mainly control the comments, so I'll try to pull in the reins for Jordan. Although he has his own personal YouTube, so he might just go for you on there.
All right, peace out, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.